Today I am doing a sit down video and just talking about perseverance while I paint. If you are someone that is listening at this point, I would just use this as a background podcast because nothing too visually crazy is going to happen. Yeah, perseverance by dictionary definition is continued effort to do or achieve something even when it's difficult or it takes a long time. I think I've been growing more space for perseverance, and I guess in this creative journey, making peace with the fact that sometimes there will be moments where you feel things are going well and then you want to start over and then you want to change your whole entire creative identity. And I think also the big thing is not to give up, is what I've learned. I guess we have to eliminate our minds from thinking that when things aren't perfect or it didn't go the way we had wanted, that it's a sign to give up. And I guess that's what's different between those who are creative that make it and those who don't. And I really try to look for more in-depth stories or experiences I may talk about in interviews of when times were rough, or how during a certain project this went wrong. And I mean, I would hope that it's been well for them, and I love seeing the final result. But the word perseverance has become more apparent to me because I've been able to see more creative talk about the hard part, and it's nice because they can talk about it from a thing of the past and not so much the present. Which perseverance, I don't know what to paint because I kind of want it to be chill. And I've got this thing going on where I have 4 different canvases attached to each other. But yeah, I think I really like that word. I feel like it's currently making sense for what I got going on. The other category that I wanted to touch on is I was doing some research, and this is solely opinion based. I feel it's not quite definite, but I read how with perseverance it has nothing to do with talent. And I thought that line was really interesting because it does make sense. Of course people have talent and are working on that talent or pursuing that talent, and there has to be something worth getting up for. I don't know, I just heavenly feel better trying to see things more as not having to be perfect, or it doesn't make sense sometimes. I feel like that's the more raw and authentic way of how things are. And also inviting when things don't go your way, or when you feel like you've failed and now you want to, I guess, change career paths or something, which is cool to do if you feel certain about it. I know I don't. Career path is always revolving around art. I think it's going to revolve around art forever. I am capable of liking other things and being interested in other things, but it's always on my time. It's never like, oh, let me just do this career path and see how it is. I always came back to art. Talent. What is talent? I think talent can be many things. It can be something that you're really naturally born with, or something that can just be acquired over time with having very, very massive amounts of interest. But yeah, I think when I saw that sentence, I felt like I made sense with that. And another thing that I read when I was doing my research was one of the things said, what actually sustains creative commitment is passion, curiosity, and a stubborn refusal to let go of something that matters to you. This was from Deborah Ann Lucas when she did her interview. I forgot what interview, but she did her interview. Again, I really like that, not paragraph, but those words, because we get inspired intentionally and sometimes unintentionally. When she says refusal to let go of something that matters to you, I kind of just remembered when I was straight out of high school, and honestly, I did not know what I wanted to do because my mind was just not thinking that far ahead, to be quite honest. I had chosen psychology because I felt a bit of pressure from my teachers when they were like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go to school? And at this time, I don't know if it's changed in the education system, but they were very adamant about you knowing what you wanted. And I feel I made a choice as if I picked something out of a hat, which was, I thought I was going to be a therapist because I've been told I'm good at listening. So that's literally why. It would not have been a good enough reason to be a therapist. I think you need to have a deeper passion and deeper curiosity for it. I appreciate those who are therapists, though, so because I know it's hard work. All along, I always came back to art, whether it was just for fun or serious. Like, I knew it's not forbidden to do art and, want to work in an artistic field. I guess it was like confining myself to quote unquote expectations, societal expectations, but always deep down just being like, I felt like I had to force myself to like what I was doing at the time, and it didn't feel natural. It's interesting because I think people are always going to have something in their life where they love it so much that it feels quite literally almost sickening when they're away from that thing that they love, or trying their best to hide the thing that they love and tell themselves that, oh, this is not sustainable for me to like it, or turn it into a career, or work on things. There are definitely situations where, people feel the best thing to do is put whatever they're doing on hold. Example, sometimes people have kids and they kind of need to get their mind ready in 9 months in a way, and they just put things on the back. And sometimes that turns into trying to live their dreams through their children. Sometimes they haven't tapped into what they left behind, that they don't think it's even worth trying to revive it anymore. It's kind of nice having almost that burning passion, and it kind of makes me think, like, maybe it's not that people don't know what they want to do, but maybe they just feel like they have to kind of hide in a way, or again, think realistically or something like that. I like art. I like the way I feel about art. I like the way it makes me feel. And that was quite honestly one of the best subjects in school. Like, I remember being in elementary school and I'm really terrible at math. Like, basic math I can do, but I would always be like, how do these people understand this formula or this language? Like, I've never gotten an A in math in my life. It's always been like C minus, and I only got a B in math one time because I took a math that was like the easiest one you can take in high school. But yeah, just as a kid, always feeling like, okay, this is the one subject where although I may not be the best at drawing, I'm pretty clever in executing my ideas. And not to brag, but also to brag, I remember I had a small contest in the 5th grade, and we had to use our Easter eggs stencil that we were given, and basically we had to make it as creative as possible. I feel like I still have it. I don't remember, but we had to make it as creative as possible. And I did like a 3D effect, like the bunny was popping out of the Easter egg. And I believe we did like a class vote. And I was one of the people that the class voted for as one of the best Easter egg art project that we had. And I felt like I won a Grammy that day, honestly, or something. Like, it was so funny, but it was so nice because I didn't feel I was creating out of, oh, I gotta be the best so that I win. It was just a flow state of, oh, maybe I can add some of this, maybe I can add some of this, like just genuinely enjoying myself. And I guess, I got a reward for that, which was pretty cool. I will try my best to find it because I am really proud of it, and it was really cool to experience that. Yeah, I've had a lot of experiences where it was just a natural flow state of things, and I love that feeling, and I wanted to continue feeling that. Like, if I could just be feeling that all day in school, like if I could go back and do it all over again, I would spend more time creating. Because I knew I always had it in me. I guess it was just like, damn, I gotta like be realistic. And then I'm like, I don't like the other stuff. Like, I like it as just a peak of interest here and there. Nothing actually making me think about if I could have a career in this potentially. Anyways, I'm gonna move on. I also did some research on the APA website, American Psychology Association, because I wanted to understand some more about creative minds and just kind of, in a way, what is actually going on, like scientifically, but also what researchers just had to say based off of experiments and surveys they've done. And there is a lot to read. And one of the sentences that I liked was how it said, neuroimaging is helping to shift the focus from creative product to creative process. And again, I feel like that really made sense for me and stood out to me because we don't talk about the process enough, I feel. And something that just came to mind was like Doechii. I haven't watched her videos while she was doing the Artist Way course, maybe I would call it. I haven't watched it, but she was really giving us a peek of the process. And what's also really cool is she was essentially speaking to herself in a way, and I guess my assumption would be you can see the psychological mindset changes that she accumulated while doing the course. Maybe perhaps it was curiosity. Okay, I'm going to do this course. Let's see how it turns out. And then really coming into a place of really calling yourself out, maybe I would call it, and realizing that psychological wiring you kind of need to work on, because at the end of the day, you are your biggest critic. It's so annoying, but it's true. Like, we are our biggest critic, and perhaps the person that a lot of the time is stopping ourselves from achieving what we want or just going for what we want. Speaking in creative fields here, her documenting her process and just having more acceptance in understanding, okay, I might do this might not work out, but it's okay, I'm going to try. And that's something that I've been praising as well, is the act of trying. I don't know, I feel like my mind is just in a place where I'm more obsessed with the process than the product, because I get to learn a lot in the process, and just actually taking time to enjoy that learning, to enjoy, okay, this failed, it's okay, but we can continue. This lighting is not helping me see if I'm doing this well or not. But anyways, continuing to learn through the failures. Also, being impressed with yourself. Like, something I'm thinking about is in high school, long story short, I was failing a science class. The teacher that I had, she's one of those teachers where she's very hard to impress. Like, even students that were getting A's and are like A-driven students had a hard time impressing her. Because I know, if I'm not wrong, some people really needed like a good science grade for something. I don't know what for, but like they were begging. Like, their soul was like, it felt like trying to impress Gordon Ramsay level or Simon Cowell level sometimes. And I was starting to fail that class. And I kind of hit an edge where it was like, man, you don't have much time to figure out how to not repeat this class. So, long story short, I was given an opportunity to get my grade up, and basically she told me I had to enter, not enter, but I had to make a video on an explanation of these topics that were listed on the paper, and I had to choose one of them. And I would have to show it to her. And again, I am not a science person. Like, I would sit in that class very confused. I think science is cool, but I need like a lot of video explanations. So I ended up doing a video about genetics and all that shenanigans. And at the time, I used my mom's Sony camera, point and shoot Sony camera. I did not know how lighting worked, but I somehow attached the camera to my bedroom lamp, like one of those. I'll probably insert a photo somewhere. I somehow attached the camera there. And I basically used my research for the video through watching, I think, I don't know, either John Green or Rhett and Link, something like that. I really don't think I'm talking about the right people here, but just videos where they had like people explaining science stuff through animation. I watched that video about 10 times because I was trying hard to be like, oh, I understand this. And basically, when I'm talking in the video, I need to sound like I know what I'm talking about. So I watched it over and over and over and over and over. And so after I felt kind of confident to start filming, I need to get materials. Now, the materials that I got were just random things from my house. Like when it came to explaining about like female eggs, I literally got eggs from my fridge and just put them on the board. I did like a stop motion video essentially. I didn't realize I was doing stop motion, but I grabbing random stuff from my house to make like metaphors, and was filming a bunch of stuff, and I spent the whole weekend editing. I edited on the desktop that I have in my living room, like my family computer, and it's Windows, so I was just like searching up editing software to download. It wasn't anything known, or I would say it wasn't any of those softwares that are pretty popular. It was genuinely like whatever was available. I think it's called like Movi or something like that. Did not know how to edit either. The only thing I had edited at the time are like silly videos or just kind of some artsy stuff that I was experimenting with. But I just was figuring out as I went on. I did voiceovers. I emailed the voiceovers to myself and imported it in the computer because my phone was Apple, so I had to email things to myself. Download it. I was just working away. And when I felt confident that I was finished, I sent it to my counselor, and my counselor sent it to her. And mind you, this woman is hard to impress. And I went over to the science lab, and I was like, and mind you, I'm kind of like a little bit scared of her, I'm not gonna lie. Like, her energy is a little intense, I'm not gonna lie. Like, just even thinking about her gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. But I go and I was like, so did you see the video? And she was like, yeah, I did. Like, did you do all of that? And I'm like, yeah. And she was like, dude, that's really impressive, because it was stop motion, grabbing random things from my house to, in a way, explain, and doing a voiceover, stuff I've never done basically. And she was like really impressed. Like, the facial expression she had was like, I can't believe you did that level. And in my head I kept thinking, like, do I deserve this reaction from her? Like, there's people I know that are A students, like grade A students, who are wanting that reaction from her. I felt like life was not real in that moment. I was like, is there cameras around? Like, do y'all see this too? Because what? Like, what do you mean she's impressed by me, the kid that like was failing her class? And all in all, to say, now that I look back, just being really impressed with myself, being able to work with what I had, and just realizing that with that video, it had more to do with, okay, I have the opportunity to be creative. The only kind of criteria that I have is it has to be about the science topic. So I had to take something that I'm not the best at comprehending and understanding, but I get to be creative. So, okay, this is not feeling impossible to do. That's kind of how it felt. I hope I can find all these things that I'm referencing and put it on the side. Also, with this painting, we're just going super random, to be honest, but the other category that I wanted to touch on is something that is big, and I'm gonna say this is solely my view and opinion. I'm not claiming it's strictly like this, and I'm more than happy to involve myself in some discussions. Perseverance for Black creatives specifically. There's a lot that I've been thinking about, and I'm going to try not to trail off too much, but just thinking about how we have to dream big. And I don't know, when I say that, I pull back a little bit. And I pull back a little bit because I kind of am realizing that yes, it's a known thing. We're always going to have to work way harder. Like what someone's minimum is, we have to do the maximum of. And that's going to be a thing. That's been a thing since the dawn of time. It will continue to be a thing. And I think it will continue to be a thing because sometimes in a lot of creative fields, the environment maybe wasn't always set up for us, right? As much as we've made a lot of change, I think there's always going to be that underlying understanding that, it wasn't always geared for us. And some examples that I could talk about is, like, just off the top of my head, and it's something I've been thinking about a while, is Zendaya. And she had a magazine cover. I'm not sure for which. However, I remember watching Issa Rae interview, and she was talking about how for one magazine she was pretty vocal about the fact that she didn't like how her hair was styled. And I wasn't in the room with her, so I don't know how this exact scenario played out in tones of voice and body language and all that. But essentially she was just saying how she didn't like her hair, and she was outspoken about it. And I think someone that was working on the team was saying how they haven't had a Black female on the cover, so I wouldn't like poke the bear. And whether that person realized what they were saying or not, I think one of those examples are so prominent because, again, like if we were talking about someone who was perhaps of lighter complexion, I think they've done it so much that they would have had more options. For example, in the room of that shoot, if I were in charge and I was working with a Black model, I would at least go as far as finding someone that knows how to work with Black hair. Because at the end of the day, it's, I don't fault people for not knowing how to work with Black hair, but I think, in that moment she probably felt very stripped in terms of feeling seen, right? It's like, you want me on the cover, but you're not capable of just confining and modifying yourself to work with me, right? And I don't think she was asking for a lot, really, in that moment in general. I don't think she was asking for a lot. literally simply could have just been, okay, we should next time find someone that can work with black hair, or find someone that perhaps she's worked with previously in the past and she likes how they have worked on her hair, and just going a tiny mile, really, like just a little bit, right? And it also kind of brought the, I guess, curiosity of what that really means, and kind of just being told who you are or what needs you have for yourself. Like, it's too much almost. And I'm really glad that she, took the measure to just not work with that person any longer. That magazine is probably a magazine that is used to working with those of lighter complexion or just white. And yeah, I think we've kind of always had to like tone it down almost, because people might feel like, oh, like it's what you're wanting is a little too grand. But that's how black creatives have found success in these creative environments, is by being loud and dreaming big and being vocal and, doing the most, if you want to consider it that. And that's beautiful to see. Another example I was thinking of is also Stevie Wonder. I adore that man. And there was an interview that he did. I believe it was like in the 1970s. And he was talking about how one of his teachers really, really just doubted him making it in music. I'm assuming this was like when he just expressed interest in music and perhaps was vocal about wanting to get into it. And she immediately brought him down and was saying how, almost being flabbergasted that he would even think about getting into music, and making the comments of, well, you're poor, you're black, and you're blind, assuming that all three of those things are just like a no-go for making it in music. And he happens to be one of the best artists out there, and he's blind, and I'm not too educated too much on people that are blind and kind of what it's like for them on a daily life. He learned how to play music, but had to also apprehend a skill of losing one of his senses. And it's, I guess, in a way, he had to work on two things at once, I would say. And mind you, you still got that woman that was all flabbergasted because he's a black kid and he's from a poor side of the country, or not the country, the state that he's from. And again, what stood out to me is the fact that, again, she had to mention his race. And I think if he would have said an answer that was more comfortable for her, that's probably what she was looking for, just bringing up his race. And perhaps her experience is I don't see many people that look like you in the creative fields. So therefore, you saying that you want to be in a creative field feels very odd, because where are you going to fit, And this is probably 1960s-ish. I don't know when he's born, but obviously things were heavier at the time. People would just say what they're thinking about you and your race and the chances you have in life out loud. There was no, I can't find the word, but basically just sometimes when you think things and you just know, you're just better off not saying it out loud, pretty much is what I'm looking for. He persevered, he did what he wanted to do, he made music and he made it, and he continues to make music, or show up and be cool and stuff. But again, I think it just goes back to the example of sometimes people aren't comfortable seeing you in certain spaces because their mind is so wired to heavenly thinking and believing that I'm not used to seeing people like you in these spaces or being that loud about your ideas. And like, I commend both Zendaya and Stevie Wonder, and there's many more with these kinds of experiences and stories. But basically what I want to get to is that a lot of those that I like or look up to are those who probably experience like being told, oh, your dreams are too big, they're too loud, or, you know, asking for this or that in the space is doing too much. But we kind of have to be extraordinary, right? I've kind of yet to hear many Black creatives that have stories that sound very straight line, like everything worked out after the other, kind of. All the time, like a lot of the times, like race is always playing into it, you know, like you try your best to not let it get to you. But I think sometimes when you're thinking about the situation you're in, having to unfortunately realize, oh, it is about race sometimes in this specific situation that I'm in, or how some of the people on the project or acting around me, maybe is the word. This is looking funny, but whatever. But also on the beauty is that I almost feel like we just share a mutual gene. I don't, not literal gene, but it feels like it, like just a gene of having that grit to persevere when we're able to cave in to ourselves and realize that we don't need to make ourselves less loud or tone it down with our ideas or our thinking. I think that's really beautiful. I was reading I think it was the Black Network is the website. I was reading on how they had some pieces, like some things that Black creative directors said, and this is specifically Black creative directors in fashion, had said about their journeys and like getting there and how they feel about things. And the top common thing that I would always see and it would always appear is how, you know, people told me like I was taking risk and like, you know, this was gonna be a big deal, and how there was some worry about, oh, but this person is like a young Black creative director and they're suggesting these ideas and it's too outlandish and things. And those people have made it like, you know, like a good proper title of being called a creative director and appointed as one, right? But again, just that common thread of like there's still that environment and still that thinking of feeling as we're still not used to seeing like Black people make it in such and such or obtain this amount of credit or work or, you know, do these kinds of ideas, that it's always that like surprised, you know, like just being surprised that it happened. I really don't know what the word is to categorize it, but is what I kind of took from reading those is constantly being surprised and thinking that it's still odd to see Black creatives and those who look like us. Another point that I wrote is representation, and something I've been thinking about for the past couple of days is these legs, is how I'm feeling like when we see Black creatives win an award, and it doesn't have to be like music or something only, but when we see Black creatives win an award and they start to cry, I feel like it's a mixture of like happiness and, in a way, relief. And when I say relief, I feel through the screen that it's like crying from having that relief of, oh my God, I did it, you know, or sometimes feeling like you're the first Black man or Black woman to make it in this specific thing, or you were very few a Black woman or a Black man that has made it in such and such category. But yeah, just almost like a breakthrough moment. Like I'm thinking about Michael B. Jordan, right? And he won Actor of the Year. Yes. And I haven't seen a lot of his movies, I'll be honest, but I think he did a stellar job in Sinners, right? And I feel like he had a moment of just like, wow, I'm the person that younger me would have loved to see more often in the screen. We do have representation of Black folks on screen, and we've heard of them, you know, winning awards, but we're not at a level where we're used to it still. And that's even speaking for like Black creatives ourselves, like us seeing those who look like us achieve certain awards. It's a happiness and a yearning for, I want to see this happen more often. And I think I noticed a common thread for speeches that Black creatives have about including representation, and just, you know, I yearn to see more people that looked like me on the screen, and I'm happy that I get to be one of those people at this current moment. And I am happy to see that more often. And I don't know, it's almost like a shared telepathic feeling when I'm watching them accept their awards and give their speeches and what they mention in their speeches. And yeah, I'm just really happy when they feel like finally I have a moment to just be who I want to be and take this in. And I feel like I'm getting sidetracked now, but that's kind of why I even want to talk about perseverance to begin with, because I realized that so much of those that I look up to, a lot of how they got there was perseverance. And I guess speaking for my own journey and, you know, becoming a creative director slash being a creative director is like, I gotta keep going, you know, because I'd be reading it'd be taking like a good 8 to 10 years of experience to really be like, and like 8 to 10 years is a lot, is a lot, but to be comfortable with that knowledge and be comfortable with knowing that just finding what I need to acquire, what I need to have to get through it, right? And that's perseverance, and just keep going. Like, again, with this YouTube thing, maybe I'll do videos and then a month later I'll look at one of them and think it was like a crappy idea. But I feel like this is what's keeping me on track and pushing me to go for it, because I think I was missing something in creating, or at least finding exactly what I wanted. I thought that if you've been given enough signs or been given enough times to see that you're not that good at something, or you tried something and it failed and you invested a lot of money into it and time or whatever, like, you should just stop. But I think I'm learning more that you shouldn't, because things are going to be crappy. You're not going to be the best or the greatest, but you just keep going to keep learning about yourself and doing what you need to do for those. It's travel or whatever grabs your inspiration. And sometimes with inspiration, not being intentional about getting inspired, or having unintentional inspiration, is what I think the vibe is. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm not too concerned about the length. Painting wise, ain't nothing crazy. I want to blend it more, but I'm also kind of like satisfied that it's nothing crazy. Like, just kind of wanted to mostly talk. And I might do something where I like cut this and paste it on there. But I feel like I'm glad that I just got this out. This is a conversation I've been having with myself for 2 days. And I think this is like a cool place to just put that out there, and like chat if someone has something that I want to bring up or add on. On the flip side,